Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, at the end of the day, it's a marathon. It is not a sprint. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean that you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in enlightened and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I am going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are, please keep listening and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, the Threads, the Blue Sky. We're everywhere for all sorts of fun updates at In the Seats. But finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at the place where it all started, our home sweet home, In the Seats, for all the latest and greatest updates from the world of film, television, and the movie image at large. Because if we live to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness. Come on by and pay us a visit. We are in the throes of the Toronto International Film Festival. It is its 50th anniversary. It's a beautiful thing, and as it does every year, it's kicking my ass as running from party to party to do this, to do that. Uh, it's a wild, wild run, and I mean, unfortunately, sometimes we miss things that fall through the cracks. As I meant to publish this couple of days earlier, talking about a fantastic documentary that had its world premiere at the festival called True North from writer-director Michèle Stephenson, and it centers on the 1969 student protests against racism at Montreal's Concordia University and their contributions to the story of black liberation. And it's one of those stories that I never knew happened. And I mean, it's one of those things that, as much as we all know it, and I mean, speaking as a I don't want to say I'm a young white man anymore, middle-aged white man, but I know our parents and sort of generations before us, for those of us who are in our late 30s, 40s, you know, we always heard the story that, oh well, racism doesn't happen in Canada. Well, yeah, it kind of does, and it unfortunately still does. And this is one of those stories that really, really hits home because it shows sort of how the historical pressure of the black movement really was so expansive to so much more than North America. No much more than America, which is where it does historically get framed. And I mean, it's this moment of reckoning for racism in Canada that I'm ashamed existed, and I'm kind of ashamed I didn't know about. But this is really sort of one of those eye-opening educational experiences, and it's not going to hit you over the head with it. It's not a trauma film. It's not a guilt film. It's the oh shit, this actually happened film. And we had the wonderful opportunity of talking with Michèle Stephenson about this, and so very much more. Like I said, it's not playing at the festival anymore. I know there's going to be press and industry. If you're press and industry, please go check it out. But it's going to be doing its festival tour, and it's worth checking out. No matter how you end up seeing it, it is a powerful piece of Canadian cinema and a fantastic documentary. But first off, enjoy our talk with Michèle Stephenson, because it's a good one, and seek out True North wherever and whenever you can, because it's not only worth it as a Canadian film fan, but it's worth it as a film fan who wants to appreciate their history as well. But enjoy the talk because it's a good one. But I mean, Michelle, just to kick it off, obviously, thank you for the time, and I mean, just
Yeah.
congratulations on the film. I watched it, and I mean, I was absolutely blown away. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, I mean, I guess the first question is, like, I'm always curious how the ball gets rolling on something like this because, I
Hmm.
mean, in watching it, it kind of felt like a perfect encapsulation of something as a white guy in Canada. I've kind of heard my entire life that oh well, we don't have racism here. It's not as bad as it is in the States. And it's like, well, kind of not. how for you, like, how did you sort of want to sort of jump into this story particularly?
How do I want to jump into this story, particularly? I think in some ways, this film has been a healing process for me, a healing of my relationship with Canada, really. Um, um, Initially, as I was discovering more, I felt robbed of a history that I didn't know about growing up,
Mm,
that would have made my sense of identity, self, and belonging to this country very different than what I was feeling as in my formative years in Canada. And so, but having the opportunity to spend time with these elders, I call them my elders because some of them this is my parents' generation, and actually some of them are friends of my parents who have known each other in families since Haiti. This group of exilees leaving the Duvalier regime and finding sanctuary in Quebec. So the opportunity to spend time with them has left me with a sense of healing around my relationship and really having the ability with my skill set to allow their voices to be centered um, in in what I hope will be the collective historical consciousness of our country, of
well,
Canada.
no, for sure. And I mean, it's just the idea of, and I mean, this is one of the key sort of, thrusts of the film. Just that idea of racism and discrimination through economic oppression. I mean, I was so struck by I think it was Africaville in Halifax by the dump. And then the interviewer's like, "Well, why don't you put in running water? That's why, let's make this part of town viable." It's like, well, no, it doesn't pay us to do that. Get out. And it's just like, what? It's like this is one of those things where when you think about it, and the more and more you think about it, it feels so ingrained that I'm amazed we didn't notice it sooner, if that makes any kind of sense.
Mhm, mhm,
Because I mean,
mhm.
I kind of feel the same way with you as in the idea of I feel like I should have known this a long time ago, but I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think it's part of our legacy of this. Canada has hidden, at least, has hidden behind this myth of the Underground Railroad. Not that it
Yeah,
didn't exist. It
right.
existed, of course. It was a sanctuary for those fleeing, but the contradiction was that both things existed at the same time.
Exactly.
And the other side of that story has never been part of this collective myth or story that we are taught. Because as you're seeing today, certainly in the United States, is that um, there is a deep investment by those with most power in
Of
government
course,
or
yeah.
otherwise to perpetrate a myth of history that we internalize so we don't question power, right? And what it happens with that is that it robs us, all of us, not just Black folks or brown folks, but everybody of a more complicated understanding of who we are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. So I hope this film sort of contributes somewhat to that greater complication and provokes, important dialogue for us.
Well, and I think it does. And I mean, I think one of the reasons it will is just the use of archival footage. I mean, especially in a film like this. I mean, it's not like you can go to one place and just find everything. This is like an
Mhm.
army and hours of going through stuff and finding, like, talk me through the process of, I guess, really starting sort of that archival dig to find what you need. Because I got to imagine it's probably spread to the four winds.
Well, we had a team of amazing archival producers, and I don't remember the full name, so I'm hoping that Layla,
Pay
you
for the
can
credits,
provide that.
everybody.
Yeah, provide. Layla, can you provide? I mean, it's Juan and Susan are the two main folks. I want you to have the right names so
Oh,
that
for
they're
sure.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll confirm on
Uh,
my end. I'll let you
yeah,
know.
Sweet.
Juan
Thanks,
did
man.
a later job, but there was also a work done before that that was key. And we went with specific intentions, right? So, and I like to look at archival. Um, I don't like to use it as an illustrative necessarily
Mm,
dimension, but more as what story does it tell? And how can it be in conversation as opposed to you say this and we show this, right? And how can we find bits and pieces of verite moments or moments of interaction that don't need any narration over that. And
right,
those become precious, precious indications of the mindset at the time, but I think it allows for greater immersion for the audience. And so we open with this talk show with this, Rosie Douglas and this insane conversation with these two reporters, one of whom is it doesn't we cut that part out, but he's Black American brought from Detroit to interrogate Rosie Douglas, And so well, let's have this Black man speak to Rosie Douglas and have this interaction. So I was constantly sort of intentional about seeing where can we find these nuggets and put them in throughout the film, and they become almost these sort of verite moments. And then we understand how internalized some of these the biases were, and especially the crazy sort of assumptions that some of these reporters made, or how they were pushing for answers that really minimized or invisibilized people in some ways. So those are sparse throughout. And so I think they provide an anchor of immersion for us. And then we use sometimes some archival that was more abstract as a tapestry of collage to give either as a sense of the cold or the winter that sort of give people sort of, again, allows people to be more immersed. The digging, like I say, were these archival producers looking for this material that was really key. And then the other point that I really want to make is the intentionality around finding everyday Black life across Canada that we could center, that we could honor, the joy of the Negro Community Center and people coming together, breakfast in someone's home, the combing of someone's hair, the dancing, this couple dancing in the club, Rockhead's Paradise, the where people were enjoying themselves. So we had a sense that yes, there were difficulties, but people were also finding community. And so those were really key, and we made sure to look for that, and we found them. That was crazy. It's like, whoa, we have all this footage of Black life in Canada that in some cases I'm not sure has ever been seen yet. And so it's really putting us on the map on so many different levels.
well, and to me, that's the real power of this piece because, I mean, on one end, obviously, like you say, we see the joy of community. We see sort of this happiness and sort of willingness to embrace, hey, we're in Canada, we're here for a better life, let's embrace it, let's do it, versus these very subtle biases and racist tendencies that were just sort of interspersed to go, oh, yeah, that people would say that, smack. Oh, yeah, people would say that, smack. It was really an interesting counterpoint to what I had mentioned earlier about sort of that idea of, well, we're not racist in Canada. It's like, no, racism is everywhere. It's just kind of how we sort of deal with it, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got it. That's what we were hoping to get, those juxtapositions without being too didactic.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah, because the idea is we really trust the audience's, intelligence,
for sure.
and really are eager to play with cinema, right? I mean, I'm an artist, not a journalist. And this idea of being able to absorb information from a place that's not too sort of intellectualized, or, where it's one part of the brain that, that doesn't absorb it in the same way. We understand. I was reading something about this, the brain and storytelling. There's some studies that have been done around that, and the fact that what we remember about stories are not the details or the information, but it's
Right.
how we felt at one particular point of the story, and that emotion links us to what we remember and what we know about the story. So it was really trying to sort of work with that within the film as well.
Well, and there's something else about that idea of focusing on that emotion, which again is what, like you say, what we will remember. When you talk to your subjects, it felt like there was this sense of joy. It's like, oh my God, somebody's actually asked. And
Yeah.
that felt so refreshing. How were your subjects, your interview subjects, in terms of just getting them on board to speak on camera to sort of relive and recount all of this?
Most of them were very eager. Um, Two of them were more reluctant,
Hmm.
understandably so. Uh, Rodney John, I mean, he agreed, but he gave me a hard time in, in the interview room. He's a psychologist by training, and so I felt like I was being, questioned about my questions.
Right.
And so, but we got there. We got there. And I think, he says that he, has been approached because he's an original complainant,
Mm.
contrary to the other folks who were part of the occupation, who we interviewed. And he's one of the few who continues to take interviews. And so there is a level of reluctance to tell the story again, because he's been asked many times, either for publications and or other reports or videos. And so, but we dug into his background, his life. And I know when he saw the film, because they've all seen the film, we did a small screening for them. He says that, he's seen a lot of pieces around this where he's been involved. And for him, this is the one that really moves him the most emotionally in terms of, understanding where he came from and how, how he was involved in his story. So that was the greatest compliment I could ever have. I mean, I'm done, with the film in terms of him being able to feel that. And then there was Brenda Dash, who was just difficult to track down. She left Canada for the States, California first, and then she settled in Las Vegas. And she just has not done that much public conversations around her involvement. And we have, unfortunately, the involvement of the women is the most difficult thing to find documentation of, because it was a misogynistic period,
Yeah.
The men really took over the mic, and yet the women were so involved, deeply involved in the organizing and mobilizing. And so we wanted to make sure that they were centered. And so I took a separate trip by myself to Las Vegas to spend some time with Brenda, to start to build trust. And then, she opened up and we ended up spending time there. And the interviews are quite long. I mean, I think Norman Cook's is over 4 hours long. And on average, we spend almost a day with each of them. And I'm hoping that the full interviews become part of a national Canadian archive,
Oh, I hope so.
where,
Yeah.
yeah, where the public can have access to it, because there's what we call in French la petite histoire. There's the small histories of their lives that they
Yeah.
go into, as well as many more things that couldn't be, included in the film that are important for people to have access to.
No, I'm curious because I want to go back to something you said just about being an artist and telling it sort of through that lens. Because had this been told more didactically, me as an audience member may have tuned out or may have just sort of had the brain shift or not necessarily engaged with it like I did. Because this is a very aesthetically pleasing. It's a gorgeous looking film with a great soundtrack. Everything's well designed. It looks amazing. How do you manage sort of the artistry versus, I guess, the realities of the story that you want to tell?
Uh, I don't think they're separable. I don't think they're separable, I guess, if I want, in terms of how I answer that. I think there are a couple of things that um, I that are very intentional for me. In the case of this particular story, it was important to not include experts.
Mm.
It was important that we center on the lived experiences and the stories of the people who actually lived that period, and contributed to the outcome of whatever happened. And that included centering people who had passed away, Rosie Douglas and Rocky Jones. Their story is in there in very sort of strategic ways. And so that's one thing. Second is really centering not just the lived experience, but their emotional feelings about that period.
Mm.
And so it becomes a work of memory and dreams and things about what they remember most, both good and bad, and interweaving that. And and I think with our editors who were amazing, Sarah Anit Hagee and Shannon Kennedy, they really get it. They really, really get it. And they come from an experimental and visual art background as well. So being able to sort of interweave those elements, I think made it an immersive experience as opposed to a didactic experience. So as an artist, it's really important for me to center emotion, to try to get into the interiority of each of these participants and try to do that with a visual language. So we spent time also, how do we build this world? How is it not just, you know, stories, but it's also an immersive world. So we have to think about the soundtrack differently, about the score. We have to
Mm.
think about the sound mix, how do we make it immersive? I've done some VR work, and I
Yeah.
think that's sort of that has spilled into this type of work. So how do we create that 5.1 experience? And you'll see, I don't know if you watched it in 5.1, maybe not, but it's a different experience in the theater as well. And then what kind of visual tapestry are we doing that's different than what people would expect? And so we worked on that. Um, um, Even before creating structure is really the how do we interpret the emotion visually? And so you have those interstitials with the what looks like snow and the sound effects with it too. Both editors are very adamant, are very excited and about working with sound. So we had already a very strong sound palette before we went to the sound designers who
Well,
just
I love that. I mean, and it's such a vital element to the story because, I mean, like you were saying, this wasn't necessarily a film about something that happened. This was a film about how what happened made these people feel. And to
yes,
me, that
exactly.
was so much more vital and so much more engaging than just sort of the realities of the event.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. So yeah, so as an artist, you try to interpret that and then so the piece itself becomes its own statement. So it's the for me the form is just as important as the content and the subject matter.
Do you
Uh,
think, like,
mhm.
just to put a bow on this, do you think that's probably going to be vital going forward? Because, I mean, in watching this, this feels like a film that can be used for educational purposes, but at the same time, it needs to have the proper context of going, listen, this is, obviously we're telling facts, this is what happened, but we're trying to put you into the headspace of how somebody felt at a time rather than just sort of telling you what happened.
Well, I think that for me, what I hope and what I hope with the films that I make too is that it becomes a provocation for people to learn more.
Yeah.
In the film that I co-directed with my creative and life partner Joe Brewster, Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni project, it's not a full, what you call it, survey of her poetry. I mean, we could never do that. We can never do
Yeah.
that justice. But is it's itself this emotional piece, art piece, the film that moves people emotionally to want to, oh, I need to get to know her more. I'm going to buy her books. I don't know how many people have gone to buy, her books, not knowing her until they see the film. And so I'm hoping that True North has a similar effect. It's like, my God, I didn't know any of this. I'm so moved. I need to go learn more. I need to go buy this book. I need to go, talk to these people. I need to learn more about what's happened in my community around, or the Black community in my community, or what did our city do, or things of that sort. And so, what we're hoping with the outreach and community engagement that we do, that there'll be, a package for if you want to learn more. Here are places that you can go to. Here are things you can look up to learn more. And I think that that's a film can't be everything.
Yeah.
And as an artist, you don't want it to be a history lesson. This
Yeah.
idea of putting cheese on the broccoli or however people talk about documentary, that's not what I do. It's like I love broccoli. I don't need cheese to eat broccoli,
No,
but
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not everybody's like that. But so yeah. So you want it to stand on its own and put and encourage people to want to learn more.
Well, I mean, Michelle, I think you'll have encouraged a lot of people, especially after the premiere, and asking you these very questions because it's one of those films that I think it's gonna spark a lot of conversation as people walk out and just move forward into their lives. But I mean, I think you've done a beautiful piece of work here. But obviously, thank you for the time. Congratulations on the premiere, and just again, good luck with the run of the film.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate it,
very
David.
welcome. All right. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.